A magnetic woman does not become magnetic by chance. She does not simply wake up one morning and discover her power, and she does not depend only on beauty, charm, attention, or good fortune. What truly makes her different is the world she has built inside herself. Over time, she has consciously shaped the way she thinks, feels, chooses, and responds. At the heart of her magnetism is something much deeper than appearance or social status. It is alignment. This alignment does not mean she is perfect. It means her mind, emotions, actions, and energy are moving in the same direction. Her thoughts are no longer fighting against her feelings. Her dreams are no longer constantly interrupted by doubt. Her energy does not run after people, beg for approval, or desperately hold on to what is leaving. It becomes grounded, it becomes steady, it trusts itself, and that changes everything. When a woman becomes internally consistent, the way she carries herself begins to change before anything outside of her changes. Her presence becomes clearer, her decisions become stronger, her energy stops sending mixed messages, she knows what she wants, and more importantly, she becomes willing to live in a way that matches it. That is where her real power begins. Most people struggle to move toward what they truly desire because there is a battle happening inside them. They say they want love, but secretly expect abandonment. They say they want success, but remain trapped in fear of failure. They dream about peace while constantly feeding their minds with worry. They want confidence, but continue speaking to themselves as if they are never enough. One part of them moves forward, while another part pulls them backward. Their words say one thing, their emotions say another, and their behavior reveals something completely different. That inner contradiction creates hesitation, confusion, and inconsistency. But the woman who understands her own power begins to recognize the pattern. She realizes that becoming magnetic is not about convincing other people to notice her. It is about becoming whole within herself. She brings her thoughts, emotions, habits, standards, and choices into agreement with the woman she wants to become. She begins to think from that version of herself. She begins to make decisions from that version of herself. She carries herself as though the woman she has been imagining is not some distant possibility, but someone she is already becoming right now. And here is the part most people miss. She does not wait for the outside world to give her permission to feel powerful. She creates that feeling internally first. She understands that lasting change begins from the inside and eventually becomes visible on the outside. So instead of waiting for circumstances to improve before she changes her energy and allows her circumstances to catch up. She wakes up and makes a decision about who she is going to be that day. She does not hand that decision over to other people's moods, opinions, reactions, or behavior. Someone can disappoint her and she can remain centered. Someone can ignore her and she can remain grounded. Something can go wrong and she can still choose how she responds. This does not mean she never feels hurt, fear, sadness, or uncertainty. She simply refuses to let temporary emotions become permanent instructions. She feels what she feels, then she returns to herself. That is a different kind of strength. It is quiet. It does not need an audience. And when a woman begins living this way with intention, people can sense the difference. Her presence changes. There is something calmer in her eyes, something more settled in the way she speaks. She does not need to dominate a room to be noticed. She does not need to compete for attention. She does not need to prove that she is valuable. Her energy speaks before her words do. People may not understand exactly what they are noticing, but they feel that something about her is different. And that is when magnetism stops being something she performs and becomes something she naturally carries. Her magnetism is not a costume. It is not a clever strategy designed to make people chase her. It is not another mask she puts on so she can appear confident while secretly falling apart inside. Real magnetism comes from inner harmony, when the woman you show the world is finally becoming the same woman you know yourself to be privately. There is less tension inside you. You stop constantly monitoring how you are being perceived. You stop changing yourself to fit every room. You stop wondering whether everyone approves of you. You become comfortable standing in your own presence. The queen does not spend her life trying to become worthy. She recognizes that her worth was never something other people had the authority to give or take away. She does not chase every opportunity because she has learned discernment. She knows that not everything she can have is something she should pursue. She does not beg for love because she has learned how to give herself the respect she once demanded from others. She does not desperately prove her value because she has stopped negotiating with people who refuse to see it. And this is where something powerful happens. The less desperately she tries to control the response of the world, the more naturally she influences the atmosphere around her. Her confidence becomes quieter but stronger. Her boundaries become clearer. Her standards become visible. Her presence begins to say, without words, I know who I am. But inner alignment is not something you achieve once and then put away forever. It is a practice. Every day brings another opportunity to return to yourself. The magnetic woman understands this, so she creates moments of stillness. She becomes quiet, not because she wants to escape life, but because she wants to hear herself clearly. She gives her mind space to settle. She observes her thoughts instead of automatically believing every thought that appears. She practices gratitude even when life is still unfolding. She chooses joy where she can. She allows herself to experience love, peace, confidence, and appreciation before circumstances become perfect. Not because she is pretending that problems do not exist, but because she refuses to make external conditions the only source of her internal state. She trains her attention. She notices when her mind begins moving toward fear, scarcity, comparison, insecurity, or old patterns. And instead of following that thought down the same familiar road, she pauses. She asks herself, is this really who I want to be right now? That tiny moment of awareness can change the direction of an entire day. This is the part you should remember because it is where your power begins. The moment you notice the pattern, you are no longer completely controlled by it. Awareness creates space, and inside that space, you can choose again. Think about how often you have reacted simply because something inside you was already programmed to react that way. Someone takes longer to respond, and your mind immediately creates a story. Someone becomes distant, and suddenly you question your worth. You make one mistake, and your mind turns it into evidence that you are incapable. You see someone else succeeding, and comparison tells you that you are falling behind. But the magnetic woman learns to catch these moments before they become actions. She does not shame herself for having the thought. She simply recognizes it. She says, I see what my mind is doing. Then she chooses a better response. That is emotional maturity. That is self-leadership. She realizes that every thought does not deserve her agreement. Every emotion does not require immediate action, and every fear does not deserve to become a prediction about her future. She becomes selective about what she allows to occupy her inner world. And slowly, her internal environment changes. Her nervous system becomes less dependent on external validation. Her confidence becomes less fragile. Her decisions become less reactive. She stops living from the question, what will make them choose me? And starts living from a much stronger question, what choice honors the woman I am becoming? That question can completely change the direction of your life. And once she starts living from that place, something else begins to shift. She becomes less available for chaos, less willing to entertain confusion, less interested in proving herself to people who have already decided not to understand her. She no longer mistakes intensity for connection or attention for genuine value. She learns to recognize the difference between what excites her temporarily and what actually supports her long term. Her magnetism grows because her energy is no longer scattered everywhere. She knows where her attention belongs. She protects her peace. She invests in what matters. She walks away from what repeatedly drains her without needing to create a dramatic announcement about it. And that quiet ability to choose herself changes the way others experience her. There is no desperation in her presence. There is no frantic need to be selected. She can appreciate love without making it the foundation of her identity. She can welcome success without believing success determines her worth. She can receive attention without becoming dependent on it. She can lose something without losing herself. That is the deeper meaning of being magnetic. It is not about controlling who comes toward you. It is about becoming so rooted in yourself that you no longer abandon yourself simply because someone else does not stay. The most powerful shift happens when she stops asking the outside world to confirm what she has already decided internally. She no longer needs constant evidence that she is beautiful, valuable, intelligent, worthy, capable, or lovable. Of course, appreciation feels good. Recognition feels good. Love feels good. But she no longer makes those things responsible for maintaining her identity. Her inner knowing becomes stronger than outside noise. She understands that people can misunderstand her and she can still know herself. Someone can reject her and she can still respect herself. A door can close and she can still believe there are other doors. A plan can fail and she can still trust her ability to rebuild. This is why her energy feels different. She is not magnetic because everyone agrees with her. She is magnetic because she no longer collapses when someone does not. She has developed an internal foundation. And when you have that foundation, you stop moving through life like someone waiting to be rescued from uncertainty. You begin moving like someone who can handle whatever comes next. That confidence cannot be easily manufactured. People feel it because it is supported by how you actually live. So if you want to become more magnetic, do not begin by asking how to make someone notice you. Begin by asking where you are divided within yourself. Where are your words saying one thing while your actions say another? Where are you accepting what you secretly know is beneath your standards? Where are you chasing something because you are afraid that if you stop chasing, it will disappear? Where are you allowing fear to make decisions that your wiser self would never make? These questions are not meant to criticize you. They are meant to bring you back to yourself. Because every time you become honest about what is happening inside you, you take back a piece of your power. Every time you choose self-respect over temporary approval, you strengthen your identity. Every time you respond instead of reacting, you become more grounded. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust with yourself. And that trust becomes visible. It changes how you walk, how you speak, how you love, how you leave, and how you enter new situations. People may notice the confidence first, but the real transformation happened long before they saw it. The magnetic woman is not constantly trying to convince the world that she is powerful. She is too busy becoming honest with herself. She does not need to perform confidence every second. She simply refuses to repeatedly betray herself for acceptance. She can be soft without becoming weak. She can be kind without becoming a people pleaser. She can love deeply without abandoning her boundaries. She can forgive without reopening every door. She can care without carrying everyone else's emotional weight. She can desire something deeply without becoming desperate for it. And that balance is what gives her presence depth. She has learned that being feminine, powerful, confident, or magnetic does not require becoming cold or unreachable. It requires becoming centered. It requires knowing when to give and when to step back, when to speak and when silence says enough, when to pursue and when to allow, when to hold on and when to release. She no longer confuses control with strength. She understands that sometimes the strongest move is to stop forcing what refuses to flow. And when she reaches that level of inner clarity, she does not have to announce her transformation. Her life begins announcing it for her. This is why the most magnetic version of you may not be the loudest version. It may be the calmest, the version that no longer rushes to explain herself, the version that no longer feels responsible for managing everyone's opinion, the version that can sit in uncertainty without immediately creating a disaster in her mind, the version that knows she can survive disappointment, the version that trusts herself enough to walk away from what feels wrong, even when what feels wrong is familiar. That woman is powerful because she is no longer being pulled in 100 directions by every outside stimulus. She has an internal compass. And when your inner compass becomes stronger than your need for approval, your entire presence changes. You become harder to manipulate, harder to shake, harder to convince that you are less than you are. Not because you think you are better than anyone else, but because you finally understand that you do not need to become smaller to make someone else comfortable. And remember this, magnetism is not about getting everyone to want you. That would still make your power dependent on other people. Real magnetism is about becoming deeply connected to yourself. It is about creating such a strong relationship with your own mind, emotions, values, and direction that you no longer need to chase external confirmation. You become the source of your own stability. You become intentional with your energy. You become careful with your attention. You become honest about what you want and courageous enough to live according to it. The world may not immediately reward every internal change. Some people may not understand it. Some may even resist it because they were comfortable with the older version of you. Let them. Your job is not to convince everyone that you have changed. Your job is to continue becoming. Because once your inner world and outer life begin moving together, there is less friction, less pretending, less chasing, more clarity, more peace, more self-trust. And from that place, you do not have to force magnetism, you simply embody it. So every morning, before the world starts telling you who you should be, decide for yourself. Decide what energy you want to carry. Decide what you will tolerate. Decide what deserves your attention. Decide what kind of woman you want to be when life becomes difficult, when someone disappoints you, when things do not happen on your schedule, and when nobody is watching. Because that is where your real identity is formed. Not when everything is easy, but when you have every reason to return to an old pattern and choose differently. That choice may look small, but it is not small. It is the moment you teach yourself that you can trust yourself. And the more often you make that choice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you stop trying to act like a powerful woman because you have practiced becoming one. You stop trying to look confident because you have developed self-trust. You stop trying to be magnetic because your energy is no longer divided against itself. You are present, you are grounded, you are whole, and that is the energy people feel before you ever say a word. The Queen lives by this truth. She refuses to let the stories of her past control the way she sees herself today. She does not remain trapped inside old memories, old mistakes, or old versions of herself. She wakes up from them. She becomes aware of the patterns that once controlled her, and then she begins rewriting her life as she moves forward. And here is something important to understand. Alignment feels like freedom. It feels like peace in your mind. It feels like calm in your body. It feels like a quiet certainty that what you have been searching for outside yourself has been waiting inside you all along, ready to be recognized and awakened. The Queen does not become magnetic because she constantly does more. She becomes magnetic because she becomes more honest about who she really is. Beneath the noise, beneath the old habits, beneath the fear, beneath the pressure to perform, she releases everything that no longer belongs to the woman she is becoming. And when she lets those things fall away, what remains is powerful, clear, strong, unforgettable. In a world filled with noise, distraction, comparison, and endless pressure to prove yourself, a woman who is truly aligned is rare. She does not raise her voice just to be noticed. She does not compete desperately to be chosen. She does not make herself smaller so she can fit into places that were never meant for her. Her presence speaks before she does. Her energy enters the room before her words. And the reason is simple. She is no longer divided inside. One of the biggest breakthroughs a woman experiences on her journey toward becoming magnetic happens when she begins releasing her dependence on outside validation. This is not always an easy change. In fact, it can be one of the hardest things she ever does because it means undoing years, sometimes decades, of conditioning that taught her to search outside herself for love, approval, attention, and proof of her worth. For a long time, validation may have felt like oxygen. A compliment could make her feel beautiful. A certain look could make her feel wanted. A message could suddenly change her entire mood. Someone choosing her could make her believe, for a moment, that she was finally enough. But just like any temporary emotional high, that feeling eventually disappeared. And when it disappeared, the emptiness returned. So she needed another compliment, another message, another sign, another person to reassure her. Slowly, she became dependent on reactions that were never designed to give her lasting peace. She forgot how valuable she was before anyone praised her. She forgot who she was before the world started telling her what she should look like, how she should act, and what she needed to become in order to be accepted. But the magnetic woman eventually sees the pattern, and once she sees it clearly, she can no longer pretend it is freedom. The magnetic woman stops living on attention. She understands that outside validation can look like power while secretly taking power away from her. It feels wonderful when it arrives. It can make her smile, lift her mood, and temporarily silence her doubts. But it does not stay. And when she depends on it, she becomes trapped in a repeating cycle. She tries to impress. She tries to be liked. She tries to say the perfect thing. She watches for someone's reaction. She wonders whether they approved. She changes herself to remain desirable. She becomes exhausted trying to maintain an image that was never truly her. But the Queen refuses to keep playing that game. She does not reshape her personality simply to earn acceptance. She does not abandon her standards because someone might leave. She does not silence her truth because someone might disagree. She walks away from the cycle because she understands a deep principle. Whatever you constantly chase outside yourself can eventually gain control over you. Think about that for a moment. If your peace depends on someone's attention, they hold your peace. If your confidence depends on someone's praise, they hold your confidence. If your worth depends on someone's choice, they hold your worth. The queen sees this clearly, so she turns inward, not because she wants to hide from the world, but because she wants to become free within it. She begins observing herself with honesty. She notices the moments when she used to hand her power away without realizing it. She remembers how easily her emotions once changed because of another person's words. One message could make her feel secure, while silence could make her question everything. She notices how she once changed the way she dressed, spoke, behaved, or expressed herself to please people who never truly understood her. She remembers the times she made herself smaller because someone else seemed uncomfortable with her confidence. She remembers how often she ignored her own needs because she was afraid of disappointing someone. She remembers craving love before learning how to give herself the kind of love she had been desperately seeking from others. And instead of judging that version of herself, she begins understanding her. She says, "I see why you did that. I see what you were trying to protect, but we do not have to live that way anymore." That awareness becomes the beginning of release. She starts disconnecting from the need to be perfect, impressive, pleasing, or constantly wanted. She no longer feels obligated to become whatever someone else needs her to be. She gives herself permission to be real, and this is where the transformation becomes deeper than appearance. Because when a woman stops performing for acceptance, she finally has the energy to discover who she actually is. This change does not make her cold. It does not turn her into someone who does not care. It does not mean she stops loving people or becomes distant from the world. In fact, the opposite can happen. She becomes more connected to herself, and because of that, she becomes capable of connecting with others from a healthier place. She begins building a genuine relationship with her own inner world. She learns to speak to herself with patience instead of constant criticism. She listens to her inner voice instead of immediately asking everyone else what she should do. She respects her limits. She notices when she is tired. She notices when something feels wrong. She learns that saying no does not make her cruel. She learns that taking space does not make her selfish. She discovers that being alone is not the same as being lonely. She no longer needs constant noise, messages, attention, or entertainment to avoid being alone with herself. She can sit quietly, she can breathe, she can think, she can simply exist without needing someone to confirm that she matters. And that relationship with herself becomes a new source of strength. This is where something powerful begins to happen, because when you stop running away from your own presence, you start becoming comfortable with the person you have been trying to meet your entire life.